I want to see that strong performances get rewarded more for average performances. There should be a big difference.
Which is what
between
this
the
is
two.
doing specifically with JPM right now.
Basically what it is he has been average. Biffle has shown flashes of exceptionalness, while the occasional wreck or part failure, and he's losing out to him. And I'm saying is Biffle's been exceptional at the times he's exceptional. He should be gaining like 60 or 70 points on Pablo Montoya. That's what it should be. I mean, he should be gaining a lot of points when he finishes in the top 5 on whoever's 10th or 15th, because those guys are just average.
That's it. 1 week, we're just going to completely revamp the system.
All right, we're 40 minutes in. We have to do just quick. Pick the champion real fast. Who do you think's going to win the championship?
Jeff Gordon.
Kyle Busch. I didn't say these are going to be good picks.
Oh wow, we're going to have to go kind of speedy through our NFC North.
Well, it's we got 20 minutes left, so there's time.
That was
we got into a really big tangent discussion. That's not bad. That's a good thing in my book. So now it's time to kick back into NFL Preview 09.
NFL Preview 2009. I almost laughed during that one.
All right.
I only have to do it 2 more times.
Yeah. And okay, so we're gonna head back to the NFC for the NFC North, featuring the hometown team, the Chicago Bears. But we're not talking about them yet because we have to do based off of last year's order, and it was the Minnesota Vikings. In spite of everything, every reason they shouldn't have made the playoffs, won the NFC North last year. So let's talk about them real quick. And I hear they might have a new quarterback this year. Did you hear about that?
I think so.
It's some guy named Rosenfels.
He used to, yeah.
Rosenfels.
No, I was gonna say he used to play in Houston, right? That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, he used to play in Houston. Actually, I'm unsure of
We're
whether or
on
not.
the same page there.
I am unsure whether or not Sage Rosenfels will actually be the starter, but I know they traded for him. Yeah, I don't know. I think they're planning on having an open competition between him and Tavares Jackson. Rosenfels, that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, they have Rosenfels second on the depth chart. But
I
obviously,
think the point was pre-circus.
Yeah.
The point was to have an open competition between the two of them, because I mean, Rosenfels I would say Rosenfels. If Tavares Jackson ends up being your starter, that's a decent, solid backup.
Yeah. I would say either one. I mean, at least that Jackson can come into the game or Rosenfels can come into the game.
Game manager, again.
And, at least be okay, make some throws here and there. It's not the situation you really want to be in, but, it's still what they got. Better than they got last year, I suppose.
I would say that was probably their biggest.
That's the biggest initial move.
Yeah.
And basically everybody else is coming back. You got to admit, this is a pretty good-looking team. You look at the names on the roster, for the most part, on paper. Of course, there's this kid from Mississippi, this young gun that might come up there, but we don't know if he's going to sign yet or not. And he's playing with their emotions, I think, teasing them a little bit, give them a little bit, and pulling it back. You don't get to see it all yet. But unless he actually signs a contract, you can't really view the Vikings as the team with Brett Favre.
Which I think a lot of people are guilty of, and I agree with you.
I mean, I think he'll sign, but doesn't mean I can't really judge them by that yet.
I just don't. I'm not. I guess obviously I didn't go to school for sports management. I'm not a trained professional GM. I just don't get the whole. Just like and this is just me. I'm weird. Everybody knows I'm weird. This is just the way I think. Even in baseball, we've seen it with this supposed Roy Halladay trade. I'm sure you've heard about it. I don't get the whole we're going to give away so much of our prospects for half a year of potential from a good player to get us over to the promised land for 1 year. I don't get that. I don't.
Well,
I just don't. Get that.
Actually, here I'm putting it to you. If you win the championship, totally worth it. If you don't, not worth it at all.
So
it's basically an all or nothing.
And this
deal.
is not me arguing. This is me asking you a question in response to that. So if you trade away, let's say your future, your life for that big name player to get you to the promised land, and it does, do you think 1 year with the championship, trading the next 8 years of below 500 suckiness is worth it?
Absolutely.
Okay, I was just curious.
Absolutely. And as far as I'm concerned, they win a championship, they have like a 10-year pass from me. I cannot be upset about anything. No, absolutely. No. Without a doubt. You win that championship, it's completely worth it in my opinion. So in that sense, it could, logically speaking, I think the idea here though sometimes is the folly of believing that one miracle move will make all the difference. That's almost the problem.
Yeah.
But if you told me that, you told me as a Chiefs fan, if signing Brett Favre means we win the Super Bowl, absolutely. Bring him on board, But if you can't give me the guarantee, then otherwise it doesn't do anything for me. Next is the Chicago Bears. They were 9-7 last year, and they were a decent team last year. We talked about them a few weeks ago. I don't think we need to go too in depth. Pretty much the same team. They've had a draft that was mainly third round lower. There's a bunch of guys. This guy Kender, I know Paul kept talking about as being supposed to be really good. Hopefully, he's a wide receiver. Otherwise, obviously the big thing was they traded for Jay Cutler.
Yep.
And traded away
big trade.
Kyle Orton, which could go many different directions as far as being really good or really poor. And on paper, this should be a great move for the team.
Yep.
And I think that's really all there is to say about them at this point that we haven't, because we've talked about them several times since they made the trade. Next up are the Green Bay Packers, who were 6-10 last year. Major disappointment. They seem to have a lot of injuries on the defensive line, if I seem to remember correctly. They were 6-10 in spite of the fact that they lost Favre and got Rodgers, who everybody thought there'd be some sort of drop off, and there really wasn't. It didn't seem like. If anything,
I actually think that they were better than their record.
I agree that they were better than their record. The offense was actually going pretty good. It took a while for them to show any life in the running game, but the passing game was spectacular. It seemed like the defense really fell for them, and so they actually had 2 first-round picks this year, and both were on the defensive line.
So, on paper, an upgrade.
On paper, usually every first-round pick is like, well, this guy should.
Yeah.
First-round pick is supposed to pan out and be a good player, at least a decent player. So, in this sense, B.J. Raji, Clay Matthews, defensive tackle and defensive end respectively, should come in and make a big impact on their defensive line. And last and definitely least, the Detroit Lions, the biggest losers in sports ever. The 0-16 team from last year. And what haven't they done? I think they fired everybody, starting with the groundskeeper, and moved their way up to the front office.
And they got the first round pick.
Yeah, they have two first round picks.
Number 1 pick is what I meant.
Yeah, they had the first overall pick, Matthew Stafford, big news, quarterback out of Georgia. They also took a tight end with a 20th overall pick. So they had 2 first round picks and the top pick in the second round, which was used on a safety. So there was a lot of movement for them. Otherwise, though, they didn't really make much changes in terms of their actual roster.
It was more personnel, yeah.
Yeah, right now their depth chart looks very much like last year's. Dante Culpepper is actually still considered the incumbent starter. This guy that, supposedly retired last year. And a bunch of other no-names, with the exception of maybe Ernie Sims at linebacker. He was a decent player when they drafted him. Calvin Johnson also is, of course, known as one of the best receivers in the league in spite of who's throwing him the ball.
Yep.
So with those 4 teams reflected upon, Chris, who is the favorite to win?
I'm very torn between 2 teams, but I think the favorite was pre-trade and still is the Vikings.
I think the Vikings are the favorite. And the thing is, because I think the Bears trade with Cutler is almost a experiment, because Cutler has shown flashes of greatness, but still he was playing with a great team. Now he's going to be playing with significantly lesser talent around him. He could really elevate this team, or he could fall into their mediocrity in offense.
Yep. I think, and I really, really think, and I agree with you, and this will reflect in other things that we talk about in a minute. I think that it's going to be an improvement. I don't think it's going to be where he's going to take us to the promised land like some people think it's going to be.
Well, and it could be in a couple years down the road. I think this is the major step forward, obviously. The next thing they have to do is actually, try to maybe swing a trade or some potential, draft picks on like more of the people around him. But yeah, I mean, obviously Matt Forte was still a very good player. Okay. But still, I think Adrian Peterson, and even potentially speaking, with Favre, I still have to say they're the favorite. I don't think he really takes anything away from that team. So, I mean, this is a team that can win 11 games.
Oh, I'm pretending that the Vikings aren't even with Favre. So,
I'm looking at both sides. Yeah. I will actually give you record-wise and other areas. I'll give you 2 predictions based off whether or not Favre signs with the Vikings. Yeah. So, dark horse.
My dark horse, I think it's got, in my opinion, it's got to be. It could go between 2 teams. I think it's the Packers.
I think it's the Bears, because I think they're the team that could potentially win. But right now we're not thinking they will, or they might not. It can go either way, so that's why they're the dark horse, because we're not throwing the weight behind them.
And I think it could be this. I mean,
it could be the Packers. Yeah. I think the thing is that the Packers are like, you almost want to say it's the same team as last year.
Yeah.
That's almost the problem.
But I mean, it's the same team that could squeak out 9 wins or